Tesla just exceeded expectations to deliver 17,500 vehicles in China last week. Even Troy is surprised. The number is 5,800 more than the previous week. Troy is very good with his delivery estimates, and he's going to increase his delivery estimate a little bit after this. This is the last week, and you can see the previous quarter, same week, is in blue here. So this is a lot more, and it's by far the biggest number this quarter. So we are definitely going to be the previous quarter in blue here, and we are going to beat Q3 of the previous year as well. Look at the year-over-year numbers. They are pretty close to beating the previous year now. Wow, and look at this. A lot of the sales came from Model 3 in green here. The launch of the Model 3 performance is going to be helpful. A big shout out goes to the Tesla team for having the best week so far this year in China. So yeah, investors are celebrating today. James also increased his forecast for this quarter from 420 to now 425,000 deliveries. All bulls today are really happy. And as I'm recording, the stock is up a little bit. If you like that, like and subscribe right now. Tesla is making a really smart move here. Tesla is now manufacturing variants of the Model Y and Model 3 in the US that do and don't qualify for the $7,500 federal EV credit. Why? It's because there are some people that actually don't qualify for the $7,500 tax credit. So why give a vehicle to them with batteries that actually would qualify for someone else? This way, Tesla can manage its batteries very effectively and waste nothing. And on top of that, Tesla is using less expensive batteries in cars for customers who don't use the EV credit, allowing the company to save money. And if you go to Tesla's website, you can see this box right here, tax credit eligible vehicles. You can turn it on and you will only see vehicles with the tax credit. You turn it off and here you go. I'm curious exactly how many vehicles Tesla will sell that don't qualify for the tax credit to people that don't qualify for the tax credit, and how many more vehicles therefore Tesla can sell that do qualify for the tax credit. Also, James wonders how much incremental volume this will drive for the added complexity of the process. But just knowing that the batteries that don't qualify for the tax credit are cheaper, that alone I think makes it worth it, even though there is going to be increased complexity. Also, Tesla could just cut the price of the vehicles that don't qualify for the tax credit because it is cheaper for Tesla to make them now. Overall, a really good move from Tesla, and I love it. And now prepare for some potentially more good news. It's Monday when Chuck wrote this, and they never arrived with version 12.4.2 to test Chuck's roads with new FSD version, the Tesla employees. But Tesla's ADAS operators are now validating a new version instead. More than likely, we are up to V12.4.3. And 12.3.3, the third iteration of 12.3, was really where everyone was using it and everyone was like, well, this is good. There is no guarantee, of course, that it is going to be the same with this version, but there is a good probability of that happening. Chuck continues, I have seen 3 different vehicles so far today, no Cybertrucks. Now, looking at the pictures, you would think, oh, this is just taken like basically the exact same second almost. They're almost identical, but look at the time here, 2:09 p.m., 1:59 p.m., next one, 1:48 p.m., and the next one, obviously that big car is missing, and that's 2:22 p.m. So all of that was basically captured in about half an hour, and Chuck elaborated on the situation as well. What happens if you talk to the drivers? Will they tell you what's up? But they are not allowed to talk to me. There's a protocol. Oh, I feel a bit bad for Chuck. There's the Chuck left turn and there's the Chuck protocol. Someone's asking, do you think we go straight to 12.5? Chuck says no, I agree with him. Someone's asking, he's surprised that Tesla doesn't have the Chuck turn fully modeled in a simulation at this point, but Chuck says no, they actually do. I met the engineer that programmed it at AI Day 2, but you cannot just rely on the simulation, you need to test it out in the real world. There's a new Tesla update going out, but it's just a bug fix release, so no updates to FSD or anything like that. That same update is also going to Cybertrucks. Some people are complaining that you cannot use FSD yet on Cybertrucks and that Tesla should pay Cybertruck owners $100 per day until the FSD update is released to Cybertrucks. And sometimes Warren likes to troll a little bit. Cybertruck owners who whine about FSD should pay $100 every time they whine. As someone who almost always was the last one to get the FSD updates, I do relate to Cybertruck owners who don't have FSD yet. I know it's annoying, but it is coming, hopefully soon. Although, don't necessarily count on that happening very soon. I've had a little bit of experience with turns like this, and my car has also done this, and it has done this very well so far. I'm always a bit nervous that it does this because the space is limited, but it can squeeze and turn right like that. Starting now, Tesla is relaunching free FSD transfers for people that take delivery of a new Model 3, new Model Y, new Model S, or new Model X between June 24th and August 31st. If you remember, during the shareholder meeting, Elon Musk promised that he will extend the FSD transfer a little bit longer. He said one more time, but I suspect this will continue until FSD is much better than right now. This is stackable with all existing incentives, and trade-in of the existing VIN with FSD is not required. It's also a bit interesting that the deadline is August 31st and not the end of September, which would be the end of Q3. I suspect this will be extended until the end of Q3. Because no trade-in is required, you can keep your existing vehicle and just move FSD to your new car, which many people, I think, will be happy with. I know some families where, for example, one person really likes using FSD, but all other people don't really care because they are not so into the latest technology and they are not investors. So the car can be kept in the family, and the person that is really enthusiastic about FSD can get a new car with FSD. AJ projects that we will see some meaningful demand pull forward in the US because of this promotion. Now, if FSD suddenly gets much better, this might be the last time for people to transfer their FSD software. But if improvements do not continue exponentially, I think we will have quite a few more extensions and opportunities to transfer FSD. There's a new note from Morgan Stanley about Tesla that just came out. Morgan Stanley values Tesla Energy at $36 per share, which they say is uniquely positioned to benefit from investment in the US electric grid accelerated by the AI boom. They believe that Tesla's capability in distributed energy generation, solar, and storage, Powerwall and Megapack, may hold some important cards in the evolution of the US grid as energy usage of compute and data grows. And this is interesting. We forecast Tesla Energy to generate $7 billion of revenues in 2024, up nearly 20% year over year. And I say interesting because Elon Musk said that this is a gigantic increase in deployment capability. We are seemingly tracking to a 200% to 300% year over year growth in energy storage deployment and stationary pack. So it appears to me that Morgan Stanley is not really taking what Elon Musk said seriously at the shareholders meeting, which means there's quite a bit of room for Tesla to exceed expectations. Morgan Stanley also projects that in 2030, Tesla's energy gross margin will be at 23%, making it a fairly high margin business. Morgan Stanley continues, Megapack has now been deployed in 16 different countries with best-in-class energy density and lowest cost to install. Megapack can connect to any grid globally. It's the most energy-dense solution on the market at upwards of 300 megawatt hours per acre. Megapack is twice as energy dense as a traditional power plant. Currently, Tesla's energy business remains relatively small, but if the energy business keeps growing at over 50% rate per year, that's going to add up real quick. With this year possibly being at well over 100%, maybe even 200, or if Elon is right here, maybe even up to 300%, although Elon tends to be a bit optimistic. So I wouldn't expect 300% growth year over year, but certainly I do expect a bit more this year than before. Tesla has issued a voluntary recall. This time it's an actual recall. It's for the Cybertruck, but it's not a big deal because it's just for the windshield wiper motor. Tesla will replace the motor with a new one that will hopefully work better and not break down. Every Cybertruck is affected that has been produced until June 6th. I do expect some scary headlines from the media trying to scare people away from Tesla, but really this is not a big big issue. It's a tiny issue, although the windshield wiper is the biggest that exists on a regular vehicle out there. Oh, actually, the headlines are not that bad because they specify it is the wiper, although they also add loose trim in the truck bed that could come loose and create a road hazard for others. Regarding the trim, Tesla service will apply adhesion promoter and pressure sensitive tape. So overall, not a big deal, but they are also referencing in some of the headlines the previous recall about the accelerator pedal. What exactly caused the windshield wiper issue? Well, excessive electrical current can cause the front windshield wiper motor controller to fail. There's an update on Xiaomi SU7 sales, so let's take a look and compare that to Model 3. You know, looking at this chart, you would think that the more sales the Xiaomi SU7 has, the one in sort of goldish color here, the better Tesla does. Xiaomi SU7 is actually doing fairly well. It just had its best week ever in China, but Tesla also had its really good week in China just now with the Model 3. However, keep in mind that Tesla's Model 3 performance sales are definitely helping Tesla here. I will keep an eye on this because the Xiaomi SU7 is a pretty close competitor to the Model 3. A lot of buyers that are interested in the Model 3 are definitely looking at the SU7 as well. And yet, they keep buying the Model 3. Gary is happy to see this, and there is a bit of an exchange between Farzad and Gary. Tesla will sell its EVs. Its value proposition is obvious, even in hyper-competitive markets like China, even more so in the rest of the world, with FSD, robotaxi, energy, and bot in tow. Weekly, monthly, quarterly sales figures for vehicles are increasingly becoming irrelevant, especially as it relates to the company's long-term fundamentals. Need to remember, Tesla only has 5 models, with its newest one already outpacing the run rate of every other electric pickup truck on the market. And they have yet to release their cheapest vehicle, van, and whatever else they decide to get into. But I know you're gonna say, talk to me once they start posting revenue from FSD and robotaxi. Well, we definitely will talk to Gary then, and we will remind him of everything he said about FSD and robotaxi before. In my opinion, says Gary, institutional investors are now buying Tesla's stock for robotaxi or Optimus, which are both highly speculative and unproven. Real earnings and cash flow are what drives stocks, so while maybe increasingly irrelevant to you, it is what matters to most institutions, which to me is a good thing because that means that FSD is not priced into the stock. And there's so much opportunity with that. And here's FSD driving at night, a 48-minute drive almost. 0 interventions. This is only going to get better. The CEO of Xpeng just tried FSD as well as Waymo, and he said he was very impressed. Waymo performed better in downtown San Francisco, you know, where they mapped out every inch of San Francisco with HD maps, and they also used LiDAR. And FSD excelled in Silicon Valley and on the highways. And for him, he said it was smooth. He believes 2025 will be the ChatGPT moment for fully autonomous driving. I am not counting on it, but I think there is a point to be made that we can add the CEO of Xpeng to the list of top auto executives who have called Elon to discuss a possible FSD licensing deal. There is a real possibility that the first company to license FSD is not going to be in the US, but in China. And there's a bit of good news from South Korea. The new Model 3 Performance will qualify for a grant, which will help with sales there. Also, I'm seeing more estimates come out for the deliveries for Q2, and many of them seem to be at 420,000, including some serious institutions like UBS. James is making some Tesla predictions. Best case scenario is mass production of compact crossover in Q2 of next year, assuming they can build it on the Austin Model Y line and in Berlin and China. This, I believe, is a realistic case. 2024 is not going to happen, in my opinion. I like to see what James thinks because this gives me a pretty good feel for how traders are feeling about Tesla. And then he talks about the Cybertruck. I think they can get it up to 250,000 per year. I used to be more bullish on Cybertruck volume, but I am not as bullish anymore given how opposed Elon is to educating people about the advantages of this truck versus traditional pickup pickup trucks. These traditional truck buyers will need convincing. Right now, Cybertruck is massively cannibalizing S and X rather than stealing ICE truck share. This is a problem that will get worse once the backlog dries up. Elon's main focus is on FSD, and long-term return on Tesla, he believes, will be exceptional, and Tesla's current EV business will look small after autonomy is solved. An FSD that's safer than human driving would be the best advertising that Tesla could do. In the meantime, Tesla has added Mercedes to their coming soon list for supercharger use. Here's a picture of Mercedes owner using a Tesla supercharger. AJ has published his final Q2 deliveries estimate. His is basically 413,000 deliveries. So why did he lower his estimate as everyone else is increasing due to good China sales? Well, he sees weakness in Europe, but strength in the US, China, and the rest of the world. His previous estimate was 421,000. He reduced it primarily due to daily reporting European countries showing some weakness. He used their implied performance relative to Q1's last month and extrapolated the last month of Q2's performance of non-daily reporting countries in Europe. And his final EPS estimate is 44 cents per share. He also predicts that free cash flow turns positive again. There's not much waiting left. We should have the delivery numbers in 1 week. Jordan posted a 4680 battery update, although Tesla has widely missed their own scaling goals. When compared to the best cell manufacturers in the world, they're progressing well. It's taking LG, an experienced cell manufacturer, 4 years to begin the production ramp of their version of the 4680. That factory in South Korea likely won't get near its 9 gigawatt hours per year nameplate capacity until late next year or early 2026. Their 36 gigawatt hour per year plant in Arizona doesn't start production until 2026, which means it won't get near its nameplate production capacity until 27 or 28. Also, those plants are likely using a wet coating process for the electrode, so they're mainly using off-the-shelf technology. If Tesla's currently at around a 6 to 8 gigawatt hours per year run rate for the 4680 at Austin, that puts them about a year ahead of LG. And that's despite never manufacturing cells before and trying to solve the dry coating process, which appears to be the biggest challenge with their manufacturing ramp. Yes, Tesla did get a head start and they have been importing the cathode rolls, but again, their difficulty level was set to max, whereas LG was set on moderate. And Jordan will tear down the Gen 2 4680 cell. I'm looking forward to that personally. It will probably be in August, and he should have his hands on the cell probably in the next few days actually, so maybe he'll be posting more on X. There's actually a new video from Monroe Live, and Sandy Monroe seems to think that Tesla actually solved the dry manufacturing process. Some people are not really convinced, but if Tesla did, that would be great news. Elon Musk commented on this. Jeff Bezos' rocket company Blue Origin has filed a comment to the FAA saying they should cap SpaceX's Starship launches due to impact on local environment. Interestingly, Blue Origin, which was founded 2 years before SpaceX, has not reached orbit yet. And in past years, Blue Origin has also sued to stop SpaceX from using what is now our primary launch pad at 39A and tried to patent landing a rocket on a ship, even though that idea had been around for 70 years. So yeah, SpaceX was founded in 2002 and SpaceX reached orbit in 2008, and Blue Origin, they never reached orbit. In the meantime, Google's Waymo has announced that starting today, anyone can hail an autonomous ride with Waymo in San Francisco. Someone just tried it and paid $7 for less than 1 mile. Before, you sort of had to be on the wait list and wait for Waymo to invite you, but now you can just download the app and get a ride. Elon Musk's Part 2 Starship discussion is now out, so I will probably treat myself to watching Part 1 and Part 2 all together sometime later today. Former chief business officer at Uber and former COO of Cloud says that the Waymo cost of the whole vehicle is about $300,000 today? Wow. Tesla, very roughly, can produce a vehicle for about 10% of that cost. Rivian stock is up today, 10%. What's going on? Well, one analyst just initiated coverage on Rivian, and he says, buy Rivian. But also, Rivian CEO says the company removed over 100 steps from the battery making process, 52 pieces of equipment from the body shop, and over 500 parts with the launch of its refreshed R1T and R1S, resulting in a cost savings of roughly 35%. Rivian still loses almost $39,000 per vehicle, but this will certainly help them. Remember this? Look at what's going on here. How does this make sense? The California radiologist who drove the car off the cliff with family inside will not face trial because he was granted a mental health diversion by a court due to evidence that he has major depressive disorder. So you mean to tell me you can just go out there, attempt murder basically, and just say, oh wow, I was just depressed and face no consequences? This seems to be insane on just a completely different level. I'm surprised there are even people pushing back against, people criticizing the person that attempted murder on his children. Anyway, let's move to a different subject. This one is a bit more uplifting. On Tesla, experimenting with Michelin's 3D printed airless tires could make a lot of sense for the Cybertruck, where high performance driving never comes into play and puncture resistance and durability could meaningfully contribute to operating efficiency. This actually does make sense to some degree. EVs tend to suffer more punctures due to heavier weight, though that is offset by much lower maintenance costs. Depending upon assumptions, tires could run to 10% of the operating cost of a robotaxi, so maximizing efficiency on vehicle miles could meaningfully improve end economics. You would probably, though, have a bit less range if you use this kind of tire, but in a case of robotaxis, I do see how that would make sense, because you are just driving in the city and range is not really that much of a concern. What's also interesting is that the Tesla Model 3 is cheaper to lease than a Toyota Camry, and the Tesla Model 3 is definitely a better car as well. Although keep in mind they are comparing the Model 3 to a hybrid Toyota. And that's it for today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you haven't watched the video on Patreon, when will I sell Tesla stock, feel free to go ahead, click on the link down below and watch it on Patreon.